So, getting into some interesting stuff now. Um, it's regarding how something that can happen to us in our lives that shocks our system can have effects for our physical health and everything from the emotional shock. So, for example, somebody who loses a significant other or a child, it's like similar to post traumatic stress disorder, um, but it doesn't have to be in a war or anything. It could be just any kind of life event that caught you off guard. And the thing I'm thinking about that could be related to this for me would be one of the bike accidents.
So here's what he discovered. He discovered that everything we now call a disease is originated by an unexpected emotional biological conflict shock. Something that happens to an individual that catches them completely off guard. In GNM,
So that's their explanation of that. I'm just going to be playing some parts as I go through this video so I can highlight the main things. Alright, so this is one of the first sections of this kind of, you could say, theory. And this could sound as initially, if you're coming across this kind of theory or information for the first time, it can really sound like hocus pocus, but as you start to get into it, it starts to make a little bit more sense in the idea that our body's all connected, right? Our brain stems from the brain all the way down into our spine, right? So it shouldn't be that hard to believe that in an immense shock in a certain part of this system can have detrimental effects to other parts as time passes. So with that kind of mind and openness in place, here's how she explains the part of the psyche.
So let's get an idea. Let me give you some examples of what this looks like and how it is understood and coordinated. So the psyche, that is where the conflict occurs. That is where you perceive something that has gone on. And so it could be a separation conflict. It could be, a divorce where you're going to be parted from your spouse. It could be a self-devaluation conflict where you're feeling worthless. You lost a sporting event. It could be a nest worry conflict and you're really concerned for the well-being of your child. It could be a death fright conflict where you are really scared that you are going to die, maybe because of a diagnosis, maybe a terrible accident. So that's the psyche level. So there are.
So if things are happening to you that are unexplainable, the first thing I would ask myself in this, as you be getting into this way of thinking is, are you ever told by other people that you beat yourself too much, that you're too hard on yourself, or that you're like negative, or you're always like getting way too worked up or stressed out for certain topics? Now, generally speaking, and I'm speaking from my experience, the reason why we neglect this kind of the fact that this kind of behavior or personality trait can have a bad effect on our health is because of doctors. Because you've probably gone to doctors where they would say something like, you'd explain to them like a very insane thing that's going on with your body, and then they would ask you something like, are you stressed? Oh, are you drinking enough water? Or some very like superficial bullshit. So then what happens over time, as you go to more and more doctors and they say things like that, we get aggravated and pissed off, and in the end become somebody, whenever these kind of topics are brought up, right away we turn them off. Like, no, it's nothing with this, nothing with that kind of stuff. How can my personality have some kind of effects to the point where I can't eat a piece of nut or like I can't eat a like a fruit, or I almost die when I eat a piece of chicken. This is stupid. Like, there's a lot of people who are more angry than me, and they have never faced anything remotely close to the things I'm going through. So that's me kind of resonating or shining light on that fact. So, I just wanted to point this out right there, because if you're watching this and, as they're saying this part and you feel that kind of anger coming up, just take a moment and step back and realize that we're coming and looking at these kind of things in the viewpoint of finding out information, about ourselves that we might have not considered before, and not in the idea of your traditional doctor who just tries to shove all your issues down one funnel when they cannot explain it, which is like, are you anxious or are you stressed out? This is not what's going on here. So that being said, let's carry on. So now we're getting into the idea of how the body starts to deal with these kind of events, right? Whether it be psychological or some kind of like shock to the system that it deals with. Then naturally what the body tries to do is do basically everything in its power to help the body recover. So the examples they gave all this time was a little extreme, and some of them was very basic to I think, like, show us how wide the spectrum can be. But basically they gave an example that even like cancer can be the body just making more cells in your lungs because it got a shock to the system that let it know that there is a threat that you might not be able to breathe. So a very deep subconscious, I mean more than subconscious, like literally embedded in the way we evolved with our brain, a part in that gets triggered, which tells which then the brain basically signals that, hey, we need to create more cells here so we can help compensate for this thing that this our body is going through. And the issue happens is that when whatever the body decided to do on auto, it a lot of the times, or most of the time, after you get to some kind of solution, it stops, right? So for example, if you went through like some kind of event where like your child got hurt, like maybe a car crash, then it started to your body all of a sudden started to create certain things in you. The example they gave was something with how mothers can start growing cells or something in their breast because their child is in danger, and that's how you nurse your child. And then as soon as you recover that child is fine, it's just like a little, maybe whatever, like a fractured arm, now they got healed, then it starts to go back to neutral. The issue happens when the body does not go back to neutral, when it keeps on doing the thing and consistently repeating that act it decided to do from that action, from that event, from that traumatic event, and essentially permanently causes this kind of dysfunction that gets more and more and more worse, because the body never stops, because the whole time it's still thinking that that event is going through. Okay, so getting to the end of this video, as the title of this video says, it's just an introduction, and it isn't just an introduction on the video I'm making as well. I just wanted to get this out because it's going to be a direction I'm going to be taking for the health, and it's something that I've kind of held off on for the reasons I've explained in this video, with like prior notions I have against these kind of like ideas. But in a nutshell, what this is going to look like is me delving in deeper and seeing how to remove emotional trauma, things I'm holding on to, things that trigger me or causes anger or have caused a lot of anger towards a particular person in the past or something like that, and then try to uncover how to undo that, or come in full circle with whatever the topic that was in question or being attacked, that I thought was being attacked or something like that, and then trying to uncover it so I can be released from that kind of pressure. So that's pretty much it. I'm gonna leave the link to this video in the description, and I would advise anybody watching this to watch this video as well. It's a little bit boring just by nature, but I'm gonna be uncovering a lot more information in this direction and summing it up in videos that are to come.